Welcome to today's episode of Making Past Present. Today we will be making something called simply carrot fritters. It is from the London Art of Cookery by John Farley. So today we are making something called carrot fritters. They are simple to make, they taste great, and they look really cool while you're doing it, especially if you are lucky enough to be able to get my favorite, multicolored carrots. I have here purple, yellow, and of course the other favorite, orange, and white. Now, not always are you going to be able to find these at your local store. I was lucky enough to find mine at my local grocery. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can find them at the farmer's market. Sometimes you can only find them as baby carrots. You do what you have to do to get them. These were more traditional for the 18th century because they had less orange. It wasn't until about the 1920s when science, like a lot of things, took over cooking and decided that carrots must be orange and only orange, and that's all we can have because they're so full of beta carotene, they have to be simply orange. And these slowly started to die off to the side. People still kept growing them, obviously, but now they're starting to come back. Sometimes you can find them at the farmer's market. There are times if you come to camp, you will find me with a bowl full of baby carrots because that's all I can find. Use them. How I like to get away with using baby carrots is I had already chopped them for my whatever recipe, usually carrot fritters. Makes my life a little easier. I was prepping ahead of time. It's a good excuse and it works. I personally like to, when I can, get carrots with the tops on it, because it's a great way to make a conversation starter. A lot of people don't know what carrot tops look like. And kids, especially kids, they're fascinated by what the top of a carrot looks like, and they're fun to play with if you haven't noticed. If you can't get multicolored carrots, straight orange ones work. But try to get it with the tops. It looks like you went straight from your garden and picked them and brought them to the event, which I hope you can, because they're fun to grow if you can get them to grow. Anyway, so carrot fritters. It calls for about 3 large carrots. Now, I like mine with extra carrot in it, and define large carrot. So I guess. And I will warn you, if you use the carrots, say multicolored carrots, which I have done for say carrot muffins or carrot cake or carrot salad outside of the 18th century world doing more modern recipes, purple will take over everything. While it looks pretty cool, you'll lose all the other colors. Just fair warning, but it does kind of make a really neat carrot cake. So for this particular 18th century recipe, I'm going to say you're going to need, I've got 6 carrots here, or once you chop them, and I'll show you what I mean by that, about 3 cups of chopped carrots, or if you're using the baby carrots, about 3 cups of whole baby carrots, because you don't need to chop them up. You can just leave them whole to cook them. So when you're chopping up your carrots, think baby carrot size. That way they boil a little easier in whatever pan you have. So think 3 cups of these, and we'll dump them into the boiling water here once the water starts to boil. And you want to boil them until they are soft enough that you can easily pull one out and mash it with a fork. My carrots have boiled till they are soft. When you can take them and you kind of squish them like that. They have also cooled because it's easier to use them. I'm going to dump them into a bigger bowl. I'm going to need more room to add my other ingredients. So the recipe says to use a spoon. I have a handy dandy food masher. If you don't have a food masher, use a spoon. Or you can use one of those metal mashed potato mashers at home if you have one of those. But since I have someone who makes me my own food mashers, that's what I'm going to use. And so you want to mash them like you do mashed potatoes. You want them to be really fine. I don't mind a little bit of carrot chunk in mine. I think it's great. I think it adds some texture, lets you know what you're eating. But if you don't like that, just mash them all the way. Sometimes my carrots aren't also all cooked all the way, so I don't worry about the little bits of carrot that get mixed in. And if you use these multicolored carrots, sometimes it's fun to see the different colors in your fritter. Yeah, for every carrot, 2 to 3 eggs. So since I have about 3 cups worth of carrots, I'm going to put in 6 eggs. I'm going to remove my food masher first. Put that up there. find my spoon because it's going to be easier. Yep. Amazing, my wood spoon. So I'm going to mix this one more time real quick and then start cracking my eggs. So 6 eggs for 3 cups. There we go. Try not to get shell, and today I can't do it one-handed, so there we go. Now it also calls for some nutmeg. I've used nutmeg, I've done cinnamon, I've done allspice berries. I also like to do it plain because it actually tastes quite sweet as if I've already put cinnamon in it, especially when I get done. So if you want to add that spice, you can, you don't have to. So you want to mix your eggs in quite well with your carrots. Now this makes a lot of batter, so you'll have a lot of fritters. And that's a good thing. So you just keep mixing until the eggs are nicely incorporated. Then it says for every carrot, put in a handful of flour. I know, what does a handful mean? Well, we're gonna work on that together. I start out with an even amount of cups of flour to number of carrots. So since I have 3 cups of carrots, I'm gonna do 3 cups of flour. You might need more depending on how moist your eggs were, or not eggs, your carrots were. I have a little extra liquid in the bottom of mine because I didn't quite get my carrots drained all the way. So you might need a little bit more flour. If you have really dry carrots, you might not need more. You just kind of got to play with it, but a good rule of thumb, that's going to be the rest of that, is 3 cups for 3 cups. We'll see if I have to get more. Now it also says to sweeten to your taste. I like to go with start with a 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of sugar. With using the bicolored carrots, they tend to be a lot sweeter, so I don't use as much. What I would suggest would be after your carrots cook, take a taste of a couple of them, because then you'll know exactly how sweet the carrots are before you mix in the eggs and all that kind of stuff, to know exactly how much sugar you should add. And when it gets to this point where it's almost all the way mixed in, that's when I like to grab the sugar so it's not overbeaten. I'm going to put a 1/4 cup in because I know my carrots are extremely sweet. Oh, and I also found my 1/4 cup measure. So let's try that again. 1/4 cup sugar. Yes, people, I have a bad habit of doing that even in the modern kitchen. That's why you always check the flour bags before you throw them away. So let's mix this all together. And then you also need to add to that milk. It doesn't say how much, but this is a very stiff batter, so I want to loosen it up some. It says you can use milk, you can use cream, or you can use sack, which is a type of wine. I usually use milk or cream because I usually have a lot of it on hand. You can also use apple cider if you want, because it adds an interesting flavor to it, but I like to stick to milk because it makes it a little bit richer, at least for me it does. So I'm just going to pour in a little bit. I'm going to say about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup. And we'll see if that's the right consistency. Because you want it loose enough to drop by the spoonful into your pan. So it's very much trial and error, especially when you get those kind of measurements. Enough of this, enough of that. If you have baking experience, it helps. Like when it talks about 1/2 cup of barm, which we'll talk about at another time, I know it's usually 3 tablespoons of yeast to about 1 cup of water. Makes the best barm ever. Quickest barm too. So that looks about right. You want it to easily fall off, but when it lands in your bowl, it still kind of clumps up together. It looks like it's made a tiny little patty. That's when you know you have had enough. You've added enough flour, you've added enough milk. Again, sometimes you're going to have to add extra. The more carrots you cook, the more you're going to have to play with the flour sometimes, not usually. But again, if you do 6 cups carrots, start with 6 cups flour. It tends to stay very much even. 1/4 cup to 1/3 of a cup of milk. That's a little more play because it depends on the consistency of the carrot on how that plays. So I put about a quarter of a cup. Now I'm going to say that this is ready. I will grab my spider and I will put some oil in it and then we'll fry them up. In my spider skillet over the coals, I have canola oil. It talks about needing boiling lard in your pan. Now the reason I'm using canola is it's easier to get a hold of, for one. But two, it's a lot safer. It has a higher flash point than lard, butter, a lot of the other oils. For me, it comes a part of historical accuracy and safety. For me, this is safety. Since I have it so far out and I know I'm going to have people coming through, I want to be able to say, oh, I forgot about it, but not have to worry about a giant flame shooting up into the sky and scorching the back of my petticoats. I do that enough on my own. I don't need help. I also do it when I'm deep frying. Again, it's a safety thing. Nobody has to know that you're using it. Put it in a glass jar with a tight fitting lid. You can hide the fact that you're using non-historically correct oil. You don't even have to tell anybody. Pretend it's melted lard. They won't know. Again, for me, as much as I don't want to do that, it's a safety thing. I do a lot with kids. Again, it's a safety thing. Canola oil is a lot safer over an open flame. Not that it can't catch fire. It's harder to catch it on fire. I have caught it on fire, but it's harder to do. So we'll just leave that there. That and the oil should be hot enough. So I'm going to bring my bowl down here because it's a little bit easier. No, I'm not. It's going to get hot. I am going to use the spoon that I mixed it with because I'll make nice size fritters. I'm going to dump them in and then let them fry. I think the recipe, it says to squeeze an orange over them and shake some fine sugar. I have found I don't like to put the sugar on. It makes them too sweet. So what I like to do is just a little bit of salt.